The fluorescent lights of Ricci Enterprises hummed like wasps trapped in amber. Lily Matthews adjusted her tortoiseshell glasses and pretended not to notice the way Lorenzo Ricci's eyes lingered on her crossed ankles beneath the mahogany conference table. 3 Sicilian investors sat across from them, their cologne thick enough to choke on, their smiles sharp enough to gut fish. Lorenzo leaned back in his chair, all tailored arrogance and Mediterranean charm, his Italian rolling off his tongue like honey laced with arsenic. "Lei è solo una segretaria decorativa," he said, gesturing dismissively toward Lily. "Bella da vedere, ma inutile per gli affari veri. She's just a decorative secretary, pretty to look at, but useless for real business." The investors chuckled. One of them, Salvatore, with his slicked-back hair and gold Rolex, winked at her like she was a painting on the wall. Lily smiled sweetly and adjusted the files in front of her, her pulse steady as a metronome. She'd been hearing variations of this insult for 6 months now, ever since she'd taken this job at what was supposed to be a legitimate import-export firm. Except nothing about Ricci Enterprises was legitimate. The coffee beans came from Colombia, sure, but the shipping manifests never matched the inventory. The consulting fees went to accounts in the Cayman Islands. And Lorenzo Ricci, with his tailored suits and his infuriating smirk, was not a businessman. He was a predator in Italian leather. "Il suo QI è probabilmente inferiore al mio numero di scarpe," Lorenzo continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "Her IQ is probably lower than my shoe size." That did it. Lily set down her pen with surgical precision. She met Lorenzo's dark eyes across the table and spoke in flawless, Tuscan-accented Italian. "Mr. Ricci, if we're discussing intelligence, perhaps we should start with your decision to discuss money laundering in front of someone you assume is too stupid to understand. Salvatore's account in Lugano, the one ending in 7743, it's been flagged by the IRS for 3 months. You might want to move that before next quarter." The room went silent. Salvatore's face drained of color. The other 2 investors exchanged glances sharp enough to draw blood. And Lorenzo Ricci, for the first time since she'd met him, looked genuinely shocked. His jaw tightened. "Dove hai imparato l'italiano? Where did you learn Italian?" Lily tilted her head, her smile as cold as a Chicago winter. "From my father, Luca Matthews, though you might know him better as the Ledger." Lorenzo's expression froze. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees, because everyone in this world knew that name. Luca, the Ledger. Matthews had been the most brilliant forensic accountant the American Mafia had ever employed until 10 years ago, when he'd been executed for stealing from the Don. His body had never been found, but the message had been clear. Betray the family, and you disappear. And now his daughter was sitting in Lorenzo Ricci's conference room, speaking Italian like a native and exposing his financial crimes with a smile. Lorenzo stood slowly, his knuckles white against the edge of the table. "Gentlemen," he said in English, his voice deadly calm, "we'll reschedule." The investors fled like rats from a sinking ship. When the door clicked shut, Lorenzo turned to Lily, his expression unreadable. "You've been lying to me." "No," Lily corrected, standing to meet his gaze. "I've been surviving. There's a difference." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make his point. "You're going to tell me everything you know about your father. And then you're going to tell me why you're really here." Lily pulled her wrist free with a sharp twist, her genius-level IQ already calculating 17 different escape routes. But she didn't run. Instead, she leaned in close enough to smell his expensive cologne and whispered, "Because the man who killed my father is the same man signing your paychecks. And if you want to stay alive, Mr. Ricci, you're going to need me." Lorenzo's eyes narrowed. "Is that a threat?" "No," Lily said, gathering her files with deliberate calm. "It's a job offer." She walked toward the door, her heels clicking against marble like a countdown timer. Behind her, she could feel Lorenzo's gaze burning into her spine, could practically hear the gears turning in his criminally brilliant mind. "Miss Matthews." She paused at the threshold, glancing back over her shoulder. Lorenzo's smile was slow, dangerous, and utterly predatory. "You're not leaving this building until I know exactly whose side you're on." Lily smiled back, her expression just as lethal. "Good luck figuring that out. I've been playing this game since I was 10. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and for the first time in a decade, Lily Matthews felt something other than rage burning in her chest. Lorenzo Ricci didn't make idle threats. By the time Lily reached the elevator, two of his men, Dante and Marco, both built like industrial refrigerators, were already flanking her exits. They didn't touch her. They didn't need to. The message was clear. She wasn't leaving until the boss decided she could. Lily hit the call button anyway, more out of principle than hope. "Gentlemen," she said without looking at them, "I hope you're prepared for a very boring afternoon. I have a master's degree in passive resistance." Dante, the taller one with the scar above his eyebrow, almost smiled. Almost. The elevator doors opened. Lorenzo stood inside, leaning against the brass railing like he owned the laws of physics along with half of Chicago's underworld. "Get in." Lily considered her options. Running would be pointless. These men moved like wolves. Screaming would be ignored. This building had excellent soundproofing, a feature she'd noticed during her first week. And calling the police? Adorable, but ultimately suicidal. So she stepped into the elevator. Lorenzo pressed the button for the penthouse. The doors slid shut with a whisper of finality. "Let me guess," Lily said, examining her manicure with studied indifference. "You're taking me somewhere private to either interrogate me or kill me. Possibly both, if you're feeling efficient. You talk a lot for someone whose father was executed for loose lips." The barb landed, but Lily had armor made of scar tissue and sarcasm. "My father was executed because someone wanted his ledgers, and that someone is still very much alive, very much wealthy, and very much terrified that I might know where those ledgers are." Lorenzo's eyes narrowed. "Do you? If I did, would I be working as your secretary for $42,000 a year? You could be playing the long game." "Or," Lily countered, "I could be playing the only game left to me, survival. You think I chose this job at random? I've been tracking the Ricci family's financial connections for 3 years. Every account, every shell corporation, every dirty dollar that flows through this building. And do you know what I found?" Lorenzo's silence was dangerous. Lily leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're not the top of the food chain, Mr. Ricci. You're the attack dog, and someone's been bleeding your operations dry while making you think you're still in control." The elevator doors opened onto a penthouse that looked like it had been designed by someone with too much money and not enough taste. Black marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, and a bar stocked with liquor that cost more than Lily's annual salary. Lorenzo gestured to a leather chair. "Sit." "I prefer to stand when I'm being threatened." "Then you'll be standing a long time." He poured 2 fingers of scotch into a crystal glass, then paused and poured a second. He slid one across the bar toward her. "Drink. You look like you need it." Lily eyed the glass suspiciously. "Poison or peace offering? If I wanted you dead, Miss Matthews, you'd already be dead." "Fair point." She picked up the glass and took a sip. It burned all the way down smooth, expensive, and absolutely wasted on a moment like this. Lorenzo leaned against the bar, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "Your father stole from the Don $3 million in cash, plus ledgers that detailed every transaction, every payoff, every name in the network. When he disappeared, the assumption was that he'd run. When his body didn't turn up, some thought he was smart enough to stay hidden. But you..." His gaze raked over her, clinical and cold. You don't act like someone whose father abandoned her. You act like someone with a vendetta. Maybe I have both. Or maybe, Lorenzo said, circling around the bar toward her. You're exactly what I need. Lily didn't flinch as he invaded her personal space, though every instinct screamed at her to run. And what do you need, Mr. Ricci? The truth. His voice was low, dangerous, almost intimate. The Don has been moving money out of my operations for 6 months. Small amounts at first, enough to look like accounting errors. But it's accelerating. And the only person who could track those movements, who could prove where the money went, would be someone with your father's skill set. You want me to audit your own criminal enterprise. I want you to find out who's stealing from me before they frame me for it. Lily laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. And why would I help you? For all I know, you're the one who killed my father. Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Regret? Respect? It was gone too fast to identify. I was 18 when your father died. I wasn't even in the family yet. But I know who gave the order. And if you're smart, and I think you are, you know that the only way to survive this world is to be useful to someone more powerful than the people trying to kill you. So I'm a prisoner. You're an asset. He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. Stay here. Work for me. Help me find the leak. And when we do, I'll give you the name of the man who ordered your father's death. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. This was suicidal. This was exactly the opportunity she'd been waiting for. One condition, she said. Lorenzo raised an eyebrow. You're not exactly in a position to negotiate. Neither are you. If I walk out of here, the IRS gets an anonymous tip about Salvatore's accounts. If I stay and something happens to me, my lawyer has instructions to release every piece of financial data I've collected on the Ricci family to federal prosecutors. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Lorenzo's face. You're bluffing. Try me. They stood there, locked in a battle of wills, until Lorenzo finally laughed a genuine, surprised sound. You really are Luca's daughter. Every terrifying inch. Fine. You stay. You work. You keep your mouth shut around the other families, and if you try to run, I won't. Good. He drained his scotch in one swallow. Because if you do, I won't send Dante and Marco after you. I'll come myself. Lily met his gaze without flinching. Mr. Ricci, I've been running from ghosts for 10 years. Trust me, you're not the scariest thing in my nightmares. But as she turned to leave, glass still clutched in her hand, she felt the weight of his stare on her back. And for the first time in a very long time, Lily Matthews wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil, or if she'd finally found the one man ruthless enough to help her kill him. 3 weeks into her new role as Lorenzo Ricci's trusted assistant, a euphemism so transparent it was practically glass, Lily had compiled a list of things she'd learned about her captor/boss. 1. He drank his espresso black and scalding, like he was punishing himself for existing. 2. He spoke 4 languages fluently, swore in 6, and could insult someone in Italian so beautifully they'd thank him for it. 3. He had exactly 3 facial expressions: cold indifference, lethal amusement, and something she'd started calling the predator stare, which he employed whenever she said something that surprised him. And she surprised him often. These expense reports are fiction, Lily said, dropping a stack of files onto his desk with deliberate force. It was 11 p.m., and the Ricci Enterprises tower was a cathedral of shadows and fluorescent lights. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago, but not Lorenzo. Never Lorenzo. He glanced up from his laptop, his tie loosened, his sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like a magazine spread for Sexy Criminal Masterminds Monthly. Lily hated that she'd noticed. "Elaborate," he said. "The consulting fees paid to Marconi Imports? They don't exist. The company was dissolved in 2021, but you've been paying them $30,000 a month for the past year. Someone's siphoning money through a dead shell corporation, and they're not even being subtle about it." Lorenzo leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "And you think this is connected to the larger problem?" "I think this is the larger problem. Whoever's bleeding your accounts dry is using your own infrastructure to do it. They know your systems, your passwords, your blind spots. This isn't an outside job, Mr. Ricci. This is a coup." His jaw tightened. "Names. Give me access to your offshore accounts and I'll give you names. No. Then enjoy your slow financial death." Lily turned to leave, knowing full well he'd call her back. He always did. "Wait." She paused at the door, hiding her smile. "Yes. You're enjoying this." "Immensely." She glanced over her shoulder, meeting his dark gaze. "You hired me to be useful, not decorative. This is me being useful. You're also being reckless. If the wrong person finds out you're digging into the family's finances, they'll kill me." Lily laughed, sharp and bitter. "Mr. Ricci, someone killed my father for knowing too much. I stopped being afraid of death around the same time I stopped believing in Santa Claus." Lorenzo stood, moving around the desk with the fluid grace of a predator circling prey. "Fear is what keeps people alive in this world. Then I guess I'll die smart." They were close enough now that she could smell his cologne cedar and something darker, like smoke and expensive mistakes. He studied her with those unnerving eyes, and for a moment, Lily wondered if he could see past her sarcasm to the scared, furious girl beneath. "You have 2 days," he said finally. "Find me the name of who's stealing from me, and I'll give you access to everything you need to find your father's killer." "And if I can't?" His smile was slow, dangerous. "Then you'd better hope you're as good at running as you are at talking." 2 days later, Lily was wrist-deep in financial records and surviving on caffeine and spite when the breakthrough came. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was a single-line item in a shipping manifest, dated 3 months prior. Consulting fee, A. Moretti, $45,000. Antonio Moretti, the Don's right-hand man. The enforcer who'd been with the family for 30 years. And the man who'd been in charge of the Ricci operations before Lorenzo took over. Lily's heart slammed against her ribs. She pulled up the transaction history, cross-referenced it with Lorenzo's personal accounts, and found a pattern so elegant it was almost beautiful. Moretti had been siphoning money from Ricci Enterprises for over a year, funneling it through dead companies and offshore accounts, all while making it look like Lorenzo was the one stealing. A frame job. A calculated, patient takedown designed to eliminate Lorenzo and consolidate Moretti's power under the Don. And if Lily was right, if her father's death was connected to this, then Moretti had been playing this game for a decade. She was printing the evidence when the office door opened. Lily's hand instinctively moved toward the letter opener on her desk, useless as a weapon, but better than nothing. Before she recognized the silhouette. "Lorenzo." "Working late?" he asked, his voice mild, but his eyes sharp. "I found something." She handed him the printouts, watched his expression shift from curiosity to cold fury as he read. "Moretti." "Moretti," she confirmed. "He's been stealing from you since you took over. And I think—" She hesitated, because saying it out loud made it real. "I think he's the one who killed my father. Luca was auditing the Don's accounts when he died. If he found evidence of Moretti's embezzling, that's motive." Lorenzo set the papers down with surgical precision. "If you're right, Moretti will kill you the moment he knows you're onto him. Then we don't let him know." "We?" Lily met his gaze, unflinching. "You said you'd help me find my father's killer if I found your leak. I found your leak. Now we take him down, together, Lorenzo laughed a low, genuinely amused sound. You're insane. I'm practical. You want revenge on the man undermining you. I want justice for my father. Our goals align. And if they don't, then I'll deal with you after I deal with him. For a long moment, Lorenzo just stared at her. Then he smiled, a real smile. Not the predatory smirk or the cold mask, but something almost respectful. All right, Miss Matthews, we'll play it your way. But if this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, he continued, stepping closer, I need to know you won't run. I need to know you're in this with me. All the way. Lily tilted her chin up, refusing to be intimidated by his proximity or his intensity. Mr. Ricci, I've been running toward this moment for 10 years. I'm not going anywhere. Good. His hand came up, and for a terrifying, electric second, she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he plucked a stray thread from her blazer, his fingers brushing her shoulder. Because we're about to start a war, and I need to know my partner won't stab me in the back the moment things get ugly. I only stab people in the front, Lily said. It's more honest. Lorenzo's laugh echoed through the empty office, dark and dangerous and oddly thrilling. And as Lily watched him walk away, already planning their next move, she realized something terrifying. She was starting to trust him. God help them both. The plan was simple, which meant it was absolutely going to go sideways. Lily stood in front of her bathroom mirror at 6 a.m., applying mascara with the steady hand of someone who'd learned to weaponize femininity. Tonight was the annual Ricci family gala. A glittering cesspool of criminals in black tie, where alliances were forged over champagne and enemies were smiled at before being destroyed. And Antonio Moretti would be there. You look like you're preparing for war, Lorenzo said from her doorway, making her jump. She'd given him a key to her apartment 3 days ago. A necessity, he'd claimed, for her protection. The fact that he used it to appear unannounced was just his idea of fun. I am preparing for war, Lily replied, setting down the mascara. She'd chosen a dress the color of spilled wine, cut low enough to distract but structured enough to hide the digital recorder taped to her ribcage. Moretti doesn't know I exist. That's our advantage. Until he finds out who your father was, he won't. Luca Matthews disappeared 10 years ago. His daughter? She gestured to herself, the picture of sophisticated anonymity. Just another pretty face in a room full of them. Lorenzo moved into the bathroom, his reflection appearing beside hers in the mirror. He was already dressed, a black tuxedo that fit like sin, his hair swept back, his expression unreadable. You're playing a dangerous game, Miss Matthews. So are you, Mr. Ricci. She met his eyes in the mirror. The difference is, I have nothing left to lose. That wasn't quite true. Somewhere along the way, between the late-night strategy sessions and the verbal sparring matches, she'd started to care whether Lorenzo Ricci survived this. It was inconvenient, terrifying, and absolutely not part of the plan. But then again, neither was falling for the man who held her captive. The gala was held at the Palmer House, a historic hotel dripping with old money and older secrets. Lily entered on Lorenzo's arm, hyper-aware of the stares that followed them. She'd been introduced as his executive assistant, a title that carried all sorts of implications in this world. Let them think what they wanted. She had work to do. Antonio Moretti held court near the bar, surrounded by a circle of sycophants. He was in his 60s, silver-haired and distinguished, with the kind of smile that had probably charmed confessions out of people before he killed them. There's our target, Lorenzo murmured, his hand settling possessively on Lily's lower back. To anyone watching, they looked like lovers sharing secrets. Remember the plan. Get him talking. Record him admitting to the embezzlement. Get out alive. She smiled up at Lorenzo, playing her part. Simple. Nothing about this is simple. Then it's a good thing I'm smarter than I look. Lorenzo's lips twitched. You look terrifying. I'll take that as a compliment. They separated as planned. Lorenzo drifted toward the Don's inner circle, while Lily made her way to the bar, positioning herself within Moretti's line of sight. It took exactly 4 minutes before he noticed her. I don't believe we've met, Moretti said, appearing at her elbow with a glass of champagne. His smile was warm, his eyes cold. Antonio Moretti. Lily Matthews. She shook his hand, her expression carefully neutral. I work for Mr. Ricci. Ah, the new assistant. I've heard about you. His gaze raked over her, assessing. Lorenzo has excellent taste. He has excellent security protocols, Lily corrected smoothly. I'm more accountant than arm candy. Dangerous combination. Moretti's smile widened. Beauty and brains. Tell me, Miss Matthews, how does a woman with your talents end up working for the Ricci family? Student loans and a questionable moral compass. He laughed, a genuine sound that made her skin crawl. I like you. Lorenzo should bring you around more often. I prefer working behind the scenes. Numbers are less complicated than people. Are they? Moretti leaned closer, his voice dropping. I've always found that numbers tell the most interesting stories. Take the Ricci accounts, for example. There are some fascinating discrepancies in the quarterly reports. Lily's pulse spiked, but she kept her expression mildly curious. Oh? Small things. Consulting fees that don't quite add up. Offshore transfers that seem inefficient. He was watching her carefully now, testing her. The kind of mistakes that could bury a man if someone were looking closely enough. Good thing Mr. Ricci has me to catch those mistakes. Yes, Moretti said slowly. Good thing. The way he said it sent ice down her spine. He knew. Not everything, maybe, but enough to be dangerous. Excuse me, Lily said, setting down her champagne. I should... Moretti's hand closed around her wrist. Not hard, but firm. Stay. We should talk more about those discrepancies. I'd hate for Lorenzo to be blindsided by an audit. It wasn't a request. Lily's mind raced through her options. Scream, pointless. Run, impossible. Or stall. I'd need access to the original files. Can't discuss specifics without data. Of course. Moretti released her wrist, his smile never faltering. Why don't you come by my office next week? We'll review everything together. I'd like that. Liar, her mind screamed. But she smiled back, playing the part of the naive assistant who didn't realize she was being lured into a trap. Moretti drifted away, back to his circle of power. Lily exhaled slowly, her hands trembling as she reached for her champagne. A warm hand settled on her shoulder. Lorenzo. Did you get it? He murmured. Lily nodded, her fingers brushing the recorder hidden beneath her dress. He admitted to knowing about the discrepancies. It's not a full confession, but it's enough to start asking questions. He knows you're dangerous. Good. Lily turned to face Lorenzo, her expression fierce. Let him be afraid. I've been afraid for 10 years. It's his turn. Lorenzo's gaze softened, just for a moment. You're extraordinary, you know that. I'm desperate. There's a difference. No, he said quietly. There isn't. And then he did something that shocked her. He pulled her onto the dance floor. What are you doing? Lily hissed as his hand settled on her waist, his other hand capturing hers. Making sure everyone sees that you're under my protection. If Moretti moves against you, he moves against me. You're using me as bait. I'm keeping you alive. His eyes locked on hers, intense and unreadable. There's a difference. They moved in silence, surrounded by criminals in evening wear, and Lily felt the weight of every choice she'd made leading to this moment. She was dancing with a Mafia boss, wearing a wire, hunting the man who'd killed her father. And for the first time in a decade, she wasn't running. She was fighting back. "Lorenzo," she whispered, "if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does..." He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Then we go down together. I don't abandon my people, Lily, not even the ones who are too smart for their own good." The recording was damning, but not enough. Moretti was too careful, too experienced to confess outright. What Lily had captured was suggestive a man aware of financial discrepancies, interested in discussing them with her, but it wouldn't hold up in court, and it certainly wouldn't convince the Don to turn on his most trusted enforcer. They needed proof. Real, undeniable proof, which was why Lily found herself breaking into Antonio Moretti's office at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday, with Lorenzo serving as lookout and her own genius-level IQ as the only thing between her and a bullet. "You have 15 minutes." Lorenzo's voice crackled through the earpiece she wore. He was stationed in a car 2 blocks away, monitoring police scanners and security feeds. Moretti's at a meeting across town, but his security detail does random checks. Understood. Lily moved through the darkened office with practiced efficiency, her gloved hands rifling through filing cabinets and desk drawers. Moretti's office was a study in controlled chaos, papers everywhere, but nothing obviously incriminating, until she found the safe. It was hidden behind a painting of the Chicago skyline, because apparently every criminal in this city had watched the same heist movies. Lily knelt in front of it, pulling out the electronic lockpick she'd acquired through means she'd never admit in court. "Lily." Lorenzo's voice was tense. "You have 10 minutes. "I'm working on it." The safe clicked open. Inside, stacks of cash, a Glock 19, and a leather-bound ledger that made Lily's heart stop. She knew that handwriting. With trembling hands, she pulled out the ledger and flipped it open. Page after page of meticulous financial records, transactions dating back 15 years, all in her father's distinctive script. Luca Matthews had kept a record of everything. Every deal, every payoff, every name in the network. And somehow, Antonio Moretti had gotten his hands on it. "Lily, 8 minutes. What's taking so long?" "I found my father's ledger." Her voice cracked. "Lorenzo, it's all here. Everything." A pause. Then, "Photograph every page. Now." She did, her phone's camera clicking rapidly as she documented proof of decades of criminal activity. Names she recognized from the news, from FBI wanted posters, from her father's bedtime stories about the family that wasn't really a family at all. And then she found the entry dated 10 years ago, 3 days before her father's death. A. Moretti unauthorized transfer 3M. Confronted. He knows. Take precautions. Lily's breath caught. Her father had known Moretti was stealing, had confronted him, and 3 days later, Luca Matthews was dead. "Lily, 5 minutes. Security's on the move." She photographed the final pages, shoved the ledger back into the safe, and spun the lock. The painting went back on the wall. She was halfway to the door when she heard voices in the hallway. "Told him I'd check the office before heading home." Moretti. "Lorenzo," Lily whispered urgently. "He's here. Back exit. Now." But there was no back exit. She was on the 30th floor, and the only way out was through the door where Moretti was currently standing. Think, Lily. Think. She dove behind the desk just as the office door opened. Through the narrow gap beneath the desk, she could see Moretti's expensive shoes moving across the carpet, another pair following him. Just need to grab something. Won't take a minute. The shoes moved toward the safe. Lily held her breath, her heart hammering so loudly she was certain they could hear it. Then, a miracle. Moretti's phone rang. "What?" Now, fine, I'm on my way. He turned, his companion following. Leave it. We'll deal with it tomorrow. The door closed. Footsteps receded. Lily waited 30 agonizing seconds before emerging from her hiding spot, her legs shaking. Lorenzo, I'm clear. Get out. Now. I'm bringing the car around. She made it to the elevator, her mind already racing through implications. Her father had died because he'd discovered Moretti's embezzlement. And Moretti had kept the ledger insurance, probably, or a trophy. Either way, it was the proof they needed. Lorenzo's car was waiting when she exited the building, the passenger door already open. She threw herself inside, breathless and buzzing with adrenaline. Did you get it? Lorenzo demanded. Everything. She pulled up the photos on her phone, showed him the entry about Moretti. He killed my father. We have proof. Lorenzo's expression went cold and deadly. Then we take it to the Don. The Don? Lily stared at him. The Don might have ordered the hit. Or Moretti acted alone to cover his theft and the Don never knew. Lorenzo pulled into traffic, his jaw tight. Either way, we need the Don to see this. If he's complicit, we're dead anyway. If he's not, he'll want Moretti's head for stealing from the family. It was insane. It was risky. It was their only play. When? Lily asked. Tomorrow. The Don's having a private meeting with his inner circle. I can get us in. Lorenzo glanced at her, something unreadable in his eyes. You sure you're ready for this? Lily thought of her father, of 10 years spent running and hiding and pretending to be someone she wasn't. She thought of every night she'd woken up screaming, every time she'd looked over her shoulder, every moment she'd wondered if she'd be next. I've been ready for this since I was 17 years old. Lorenzo nodded once, sharp and decisive. Then let's finish it. The Don's estate was a fortress disguised as a mansion, all iron gates and security cameras and men with guns hidden in expensive suits. Lily walked through the front door on Lorenzo's arm, her spine straight and her expression calm, even as her pulse thundered in her ears. The inner circle was already assembled. The Don, silver-haired and terrifying in his composure. His consigliere, a lawyer whose specialty was making problems disappear. And Antonio Moretti, who looked up when they entered and smiled like a viper spotting prey. Lorenzo, the Don said, his voice cultured and cold. I wasn't expecting you, and you've brought company. This is Lily Matthews, Lorenzo said, my executive assistant and the daughter of Luca Matthews. The room went silent. Moretti's smile faltered. I see, the Don said slowly. That's an interesting pedigree. What brings you to my home, Miss Matthews? Lily stepped forward, her phone in hand. I came to show you this. She pulled up the photos, handed the phone to the Don. His expression didn't change as he scrolled through image after image of her father's ledger, of Moretti's theft, of the proof that one of his most trusted men had been stealing from the family for over a decade. When he finally looked up, his eyes were colder than a Chicago winter. Antonio, the Don said softly. Would you care to explain? Moretti's face had gone pale, but his voice remained steady. Those records are fabrications. The girl is lying, just like her traitor father. My father, Lily interrupted, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. Discovered that you were embezzling $3 million from the family. He confronted you, and 3 days later, he was dead. You kept his ledger as insurance, or maybe as a trophy. Either way, you made a mistake. You let me live. The girl is delusional, Moretti said, turning to the Don. She's been working with Lorenzo to undermine me, to create division within the family. Actually, Lorenzo said, his voice deadly calm. She's been working with me to find out who's been stealing from my operations. The trail led to you, Antonio. Every shell corporation, every offshore account, every discrepancy in the books, they all point back to you. The Don set down the phone with surgical precision. Antonio, for 30 years you've been my right hand. I've trusted you with my life, my business, my family. He stood, moving around the desk with the slow, deliberate pace of a predator. Tell me the truth. Did you kill Luca Matthews? Moretti's mask cracked. Just for a moment, Lily saw raw panic in his eyes. Then he lunged for his gun. Lorenzo moved faster. His weapon was already drawn, already aimed at Moretti's chest. Don't. Moretti froze, his hand halfway to his jacket. The Don's security detail had materialized from the shadows, their weapons trained on him. I did what was necessary, Moretti said finally, his voice tight. Matthews found the discrepancies. He was going to expose me, destroy everything I'd built. I had no choice. You had a choice, the Don said quietly. You chose betrayal. You chose theft. And you chose murder. He nodded to his guards. Take him. They moved with brutal efficiency. Moretti didn't resist. There was no point. As they dragged him toward the door, he looked at Lily, his expression twisted with hatred. Your father was weak, he spat. Just like you think you've won? You've just painted a target on your back. The moment you leave this house, she's under my protection, Lorenzo said. Anything that happens to her happens to me. The Don raised an eyebrow. That's a dangerous promise, Lorenzo. I'm aware. Moretti laughed a broken, bitter sound. You're both dead. You just don't know it yet. The door closed behind him. Silence fell over the room like a shroud. The Don studied Lily for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Your father was a brilliant man. Difficult, stubborn, but brilliant. I didn't order his death, Miss Matthews. If I had known what Antonio had done— But you didn't know, Lily said. Because he was smart enough to hide it from you. Just like he's been hiding the embezzlement for over a decade. The Don's jaw tightened. What do you want? Revenge? Money? I want the truth about what happened to my father's body, and I want protection for myself, and for Lorenzo. The truth, the Don said slowly, is that your father isn't dead. The world tilted. What? Lily's voice came out as a whisper. Luca Matthews is alive. He's been in witness protection for 10 years, working with Interpol to build a case against this family. The Don's smile was cold, humorless. Your father didn't die, Miss Matthews. He abandoned you. Lily's legs went weak. Lorenzo's hand steadied her, his grip firm on her elbow. You're lying, she managed. I wish I were. The Don pulled a folder from his desk, slid it across to her. This arrived 2 days ago. An Interpol agent making contact, requesting cooperation in exchange for immunity. And your father's name is all over it. Lily's hands shook as she opened the folder. Photographs, documents, and a single letter written in her father's handwriting. To whom it may concern. I, Luca Matthews, am willing to testify against the Ricci crime family in exchange for full immunity and witness protection for myself and my daughter. He's been trying to bring us down for a decade, the Don said. Using you, Miss Matthews, as leverage. The daughter he left behind, the innocent victim, it's excellent PR for a prosecution case. Lily couldn't breathe. 10 years. 10 years of grief, of rage, of believing her father had died for his principles. And he'd been alive the whole time, working with the feds, using her as a pawn. Where is he? She asked, her voice hollow. Brussels. Interpol headquarters. The Don leaned back in his chair. The question is, Miss Matthews, what are you going to do about it? Lorenzo's hand tightened on her arm. Lily! She pulled away, her mind racing. Her father was alive. Her father had abandoned her. Her father had been using her to build a case against the family, and she was standing in a room full of criminals who now knew she was the daughter of their enemy. "I need time," she said finally, "to think." "You have 24 hours, the Don said. "After that, I expect your answer. Stay loyal to the family that's protected you, or run to Daddy and help him destroy us. Choose wisely, Miss Matthews. Your life depends on it." Lily didn't speak on the drive back to her apartment. Didn't speak as Lorenzo followed her inside. Didn't speak as she poured herself 3 fingers of scotch and downed it in one burning gulp. "Lily, he left me." Her voice cracked. "He left me alone, terrified, convinced he was dead, while he was making deals with Interpol, while he was building a case, while he was using me as bait." Lorenzo crossed the room, pulled her into his arms before she could protest. She should have fought it, should have pushed him away. Instead, she buried her face in his chest and let herself break. "I'm so sorry," Lorenzo murmured into her hair. "I don't know what to do." The confession felt like defeat. "I came here for revenge, for justice, and now I find out everything I believed was a lie." Lorenzo pulled back, his hands framing her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then, we make a new truth. One where you're not a victim or a pawn. One where you choose your own ending." "And what ending is that?" His smile was dark, dangerous, and utterly compelling. "The one where we take everything from the people who thought they could use us. Your father, the Don, Interpol. They all think they're playing us. Let's show them who the real players are." Lily's breath caught. "That's insane. That's justice." Lorenzo's thumb brushed away a tear she didn't realize had fallen. "You wanted revenge, Lily. Let's give it to them. All of them." And looking into his eyes, dark, fierce, and absolutely certain, Lily made her choice. Not the choice her father wanted. Not the choice the Don expected. But the choice that was entirely, terrifyingly hers. "All right," she whispered. "Let's burn it all down." Lorenzo's smile was savage and beautiful. "That's my girl." And for the first time in 10 years, Lily Matthews felt something other than pain or rage. She felt powerful. The plan took 3 weeks to construct and required every ounce of Lily's genius and Lorenzo's ruthlessness. They worked in secret, in her apartment after midnight, surrounded by coffee cups and conspiracy boards that would make a federal prosecutor weep with joy. "Your father thinks you're an innocent victim," Lorenzo said, pacing the length of her living room. "The Don thinks you're a potential liability. Interpol thinks you're a witness they can flip. We use all of that." "How?" Lily asked, though her mind was already 3 steps ahead, calculating probabilities and contingencies. "We feed your father false information about the Don's operations. Make him think he's getting genuine intelligence from you. Meanwhile, we feed the Don real information about Interpol's investigation, enough to make him think you're loyal, but not enough to compromise our position. A double game. A triple game." Lorenzo leaned over the table, his eyes bright with dangerous enthusiasm. "Because while everyone thinks we're playing for their side, we're actually building our own case. Your father's ledger, Moretti's confession, the Don's illegal operations, we document everything. And when the time is right, we give it all to the U.S. attorney, not Interpol, not your father. A clean prosecution that destroys everyone who tried to use us." Lily stared at him. "That's brilliant. That's also suicidal. The moment the Don realizes what we're doing. We'll be untouchable, because we'll have leverage on everyone." Lorenzo pulled out a USB drive, set it on the table between them. Insurance policies, recordings, documents, financial records. copies stored in 3 different countries, with instructions to release everything if either of us dies or disappears. Mutually assured destruction. Except we're not actually going to destroy anything, Lily said slowly, understanding dawning. We're going to make them all so terrified of each other that they can't move against us without triggering their own collapse. Exactly. Lorenzo's smile was sharp enough to cut. Your father used you as a pawn. The Dawn treated you like a problem to be solved. Even I... He paused, something flickering across his expression. Even I thought I could control you. We were all wrong. Lily picked up the USB drive, felt its weight in her palm. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll be enemies to everyone. Or, Lorenzo said quietly, we'll be free. No family controlling us. No father manipulating us. Just us, with enough power to make our own rules. It was insane. It was perfect. It was everything she'd never dared to hope for. One condition, Lily said. Name it. When this is over, if we survive you and I walk away from this world, clean break. No more Mafia, no more games. Just normal lives. Lorenzo studied her for a long moment, his expression impossible to read. Then he extended his hand. Deal. She shook it, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip, and something else, a spark that had nothing to do with revenge or justice and everything to do with the man standing in front of her. One more thing, Lorenzo said, not releasing her hand. When this is over, I'm taking you to dinner, somewhere ridiculously expensive where they don't serve anything that could conceal a weapon. Despite everything, despite the danger, the lies, the impossible stakes. Lily laughed. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Ricci? I'm asking you to give me a chance to be something other than your captor or your partner in crime. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, sending shivers up her arm. I'm asking you to let me be the man who chooses you, not the one who needs you. Lorenzo. You don't have to answer now. He released her hand, stepped back, giving her space. But when this is done, ask yourself, do you trust me? Because I trust you, Lily Matthews, more than I've ever trusted anyone. The endgame began on a Friday in March, when Lily walked into the Dawn's office with a leather folder containing fabricated intelligence on Interpol's surveillance operations. This is everything my father shared with me, she said, her voice steady despite the wire taped to her ribs. Locations, agents, operational timelines. He thinks I'm helping him build his case. He doesn't know I'm helping you. The Dawn examined the documents, his expression thoughtful. And Lorenzo? Lorenzo believes in the family. In you. The lies tasted like poison, but Lily had gotten good at swallowing toxins. We both do. I want to believe that, Miss Matthews. Truly. The Dawn set down the folder. But trust must be earned. Prove your loyalty. Your father is in Brussels. I want him eliminated. Lily's blood turned to ice. You want me to kill my own father? I want you to prove that you're one of us. That your loyalty is to this family, not to the man who abandoned you. The Dawn's smile was cold, paternal. Lorenzo will accompany you, of course, for support, and to ensure you don't lose your nerve. It was a test. One she'd expected, but hoped to avoid. When? She asked. This weekend. Make the arrangements. He wants me to kill Luca, Lily said, as soon as she and Lorenzo were alone in the car. It's a loyalty test. Of course it is. Lorenzo's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. We knew he'd ask eventually. The question is, can you do it? Could she? Could she look her father in the eyes, the man who'd raised her, taught her, then abandoned her, and pull the trigger? I don't know, Lily admitted. But I know I can't let the Dawn win. And I can't let my father think he can manipulate me forever. So we improvise. Lorenzo turned to look at her, his expression fierce. We go to Brussels. We confront your father, and we give him a choice. Help us take down the Dawn, or we give the Dawn exactly what he wants. You think Luca will cooperate? I think your father is a survivor, and survivors make deals. Lorenzo's hand found hers, squeezed once. We can do this, Lily, together. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe that they could outsmart everyone, that they could walk away from this alive and free. But belief was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not yet. And now that our Brussels was freezing and beautiful. The kind of city where you could disappear into crowds of tourists and diplomats and never be found. Lily stood outside Interpol headquarters, her father's location pinned by a contact Lorenzo had in European intelligence, and tried to feel something other than numb. Ready? Lorenzo asked. No, but let's do it anyway. They found Luca Matthews in a cafe 2 blocks from headquarters, sitting alone with a newspaper and an espresso. He looked older than Lily remembered, grayer, thinner, worn down by a decade of hiding and lies. She slid into the seat across from him. Luca looked up, his expression cycling through shock, joy, and fear in rapid succession. Lily, what are you? Hello, Dad. Her voice was cold, controlled. Miss me? Lily, listen, I can explain. You left me. The words came out flat, factual. You faked your death, went into witness protection, and left me to think you were murdered. For 10 years. I had no choice. Moretti was going to kill us both. Witness protection was the only way. Witness protection for you, Lily corrected. Not for me. You left me behind while you built your case, used me as a sympathetic detail in your narrative. The tragic daughter of a slain accountant. Great PR. Luca's face crumpled. I wanted to protect you. You wanted to protect yourself. Lorenzo appeared behind Lily, his hand settling on her shoulder. Mr. Matthews, I'm Lorenzo Ricci. I believe you've been trying to destroy my family. Luca's eyes widened. Lily, what have you done? What you taught me to do. Lily leaned forward, her voice deadly soft. I survived. I adapted. And I made alliances with people who don't lie to me about being dead. He's a criminal. So are you. Lily pulled out a manila envelope, slid it across the table. Your ledger. The one Moretti kept as insurance. I have copies. Multiple copies. And I have a choice to make. Give it to the U.S. attorney and watch both you and the Don burn, or give it to the Don and let him finish what Moretti started. Luca opened the envelope with shaking hands, his face going pale as he recognized his own handwriting. Where did you get this? I stole it. Because unlike you, I don't sit around waiting for someone else to solve my problems. Lily stood, her expression hard. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to help us take down the Don, properly, through legitimate channels. U.S. Attorney, not Interpol. You're going to testify, cooperate fully, and make sure every single person who tried to use me faces consequences. And if I refuse? Lorenzo's smile was a knife in the dark. Then we tell the Don exactly where to find you, and we all know how that story ends. Luca looked between them, his daughter, cold and brilliant, and utterly done with him, and the Mafia boss who'd somehow become her partner. You'd really let him kill me? I'd really stop caring whether you live or die, Lily said. The difference is subtle but important. Now choose, Dad. Redemption or revenge? You've got 10 seconds. And in the end, Luca chose survival. He always had. 3 months later, The U.S. Attorney's Office announced the largest RICO case in Chicago history. The Don, his consigliere, and 17 other high-ranking members of the organization were indicted on charges ranging from racketeering to murder. Luca Matthews testified in exchange for immunity. Lorenzo Ricci, declared a cooperating witness, received a deal that would keep him out of prison. And Lily Matthews, the brilliant daughter of a traitor who'd become something far more dangerous than either of her parents, walked out of the courthouse a free woman. Lorenzo was waiting by his car, leaning against the hood with his hands in his pockets, looking less like a mob boss and more like someone who'd finally, 6 months after the trials ended, Lily Matthews stood in front of a small accounting firm in Portland, Oregon, 3,000 miles from Chicago, from the Don's empire, from everything that had tried to destroy her. The sign above the door read, Matthews and Ricci, Financial Consulting. "You're sure about the name?" Lorenzo asked, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. He'd traded his tailored suits for jeans and a leather jacket, though he still moved like a predator pretending to be domesticated. "I'm sure about the partner," Lily said, accepting the coffee. "The name just makes it official." They'd kept their promise. Clean break. No more Mafia, no more games. Lorenzo had taken his deal, testified, and walked away with enough legitimate investments to start over. Lily had finished her graduate degree in forensic accounting and passed the CPA exam with the highest score in state history. Turns out, a genius IQ and a decade of surviving criminals made for excellent credentials. "Your father called again," Lorenzo said carefully. Lily sipped her coffee, watching the morning light paint the street gold. "Did you answer?" "No, that's your choice to make." Luca had tried reaching out 17 times since the trials. Apologies, explanations, requests to rebuild their relationship. Lily had ignored every single one. Some ledgers, once closed, stayed closed. "Maybe someday," she said finally. "But not today." Lorenzo nodded, understanding in his silence. That was the thing about surviving hell together. Words became optional. "So," he said, his lips quirking into that dangerous half-smile she'd come to know too well. "Ready to run a legitimate business with your former captor? Ready to take that dinner date you promised me?" His smile widened. "Tonight. Somewhere ridiculously expensive with terrible wine and no weapons allowed." "Perfect." Lily turned to face him fully. This man who'd been her enemy, her ally, her partner in impossible crimes. "But fair warning, Mr. Ricci, I'm still smarter than you." "I'm counting on it, Miss Matthews." Lorenzo pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "Someone has to keep me honest. Then you picked the right accountant." They kissed there on the sidewalk, 2 people who'd burned down an empire and built something better from the ashes. Behind them, their office waited, legitimate, legal, and absolutely theirs. The past was a ledger of blood and lies. But the future was a blank page, and Lily Matthews had always been excellent with numbers. The entire ounce,